I'd like to welcome everyone. My name is Dan Clark. I'm the director of the Local Government Center here at Montana State University. Ashley Kent, our associate specialist, is joining us also. She's going to help us later on as we navigate the question and answer process. Um, for those of you that don't know, we've been doing these about every other week for a couple of months now, and this is a great way for counties and the
I
MACo
just
to join
started.
in. And to share questions about the CARES Act and how to respond with your uh, reimbursement. We've got someone who is not on mute. If you could all stay on mute until you have a question, you can then unmute and join in the conversation. Um, so you can find the mute button down on the bottom of your screen. It looks like a microphone. Just click on it. If it shows up red, that means you're muted. If you would like to make a comment, you can unmute. It's time for comment period, and you can ask your question, or you can type in the chat box, which is down on the right-hand side of your screen, and you can select all, and so we can all see your questions, and then we'll try to respond to those as we go through the question and answer period. So I think what we'll do now is we'll turn the time over to the folks at MACo with Jason and Eric, and we'll start out with whatever they have to share with you and any changes or clarifications that they would like to make about the CARES Act or any sort of reimbursement process or anything else they'd like to share with you. So we'll go ahead and turn it over to Eric and Jason.
Clark, thank you for that introduction. And again, thank you for helping us host these. Looks like we got another good turnout today, so I'm encouraged by that. I do have two guests I want to turn it over to start with. I mentioned, and I think throughout you guys last week, that Representative Zach Brown was going to be out and about in counties trying to encourage through the census count increased participation for, I don't want to say, for our most unresponsive counties, and then likely continue that throughout the rest of the counties if he has time. Zach Brown is currently a member of the House of Representatives. He's also a candidate for county commissioner, but in both instances, I think we can just call him Zach for his presentation today. And so I'll start by turning it over to you, Zach.
Thank you, Eric. Yeah, I will keep it brief, but certainly be available for questions. I'm doing a couple of months of partnership contract work here with MACo, working specifically for the Montana Nonprofit Association. And our goal is to increase census participation in rural counties. We're starting with the 7 counties that have a lower than 30% response rate, but we eventually would like to work with counties statewide. As Eric and Jason have probably communicated to you already, they received pre-authorization last week from the governor's office that any expenditures from county governments or local governments or tribes related to census promotion is reimbursable under the Federal CARES Act. And so what we're doing right now is starting with our tier 1 counties, which are counties that have a lower than 30% response rate. We're helping counties design template postcards that give your constituents the right information about which numbers to call, what's the website, giving some rationale about why responding to the census is so important for your communities. And then we're working with counties to send those projects to the printers and get them mailed as soon as possible. And so, in fact, we just got Fallon County was our first county that pulled the trigger on this, and yesterday we sent their project to the printers, and that's all in the works. So you'll be hearing from me hopefully in the coming weeks. If you would like to proactively get something going in your county, you can also reach out to us that way as well. And then beyond the postcard and census promotion work through the CARES Act, just know that we stand ready at the Montana Nonprofit Association to support your efforts in your community to get the word out. And so I'll put my contact information in the chat box. And Jason and Eric certainly know how to get a hold of me, but we would really advocate that local governments take advantage of this opportunity to use CARES Act funding to get your response rates higher in your communities. So you all know what's at stake in terms of census participation more than anyone. So I won't go into detail on that, but certainly happy to answer any questions. And again, Jason and Eric, thank you so much for giving me a little bit of time at the beginning of the meeting.
Let's go ahead and take this opportunity. If you have questions, now is a great time to do it so we can keep our topics kind of together. And since we have Zach here with us, if anybody has any questions, go ahead and either raise your hand next to your name and we will unmute you, or drop them in the chat box.
For those of you on the financial end of things at your counties, the way it will work is Zach will reach out to you, give you a draft postcard. Zach will work through the logistics of how we get that printed and sent out. The invoice will go to the county, and then you will submit it on your next CARES Act request for reimbursement and get your money back. So the role of the county is to sponsor the postcard, put your names to it so that it lends your credibility to the request of your citizens, and then pay the bill in anticipation of reimbursement at the next reimbursement cycle.
We have a question in the chat. How do we know that your county's response, what your county's response to the census? So maybe a current response indicator.
Yeah, so we're tracking census response rates on a county by county basis. Twice a week we get updates from the U.S. Census Bureau. And for counties that have a larger population, you're actually broken into tracks where we can see different parts of your county might have a higher or lower response rate. So I can also answer any individual questions if you're wondering where you're at. You're welcome to shoot me an email or give me a call, and I can quickly pull up that information. I have the updated spreadsheets on my computer ready to reference all the time. So that's an easy answer on a case-by-case basis.
Zach, your email is?
Yeah, and I just put it in the chat box. It's Zachary, ZACHARY .brown@hotmail.com. And I also put my cell phone number there. So you're welcome to give me a holler anytime. I'd love to be of service to you all.
It looks like Jerry Collins may have a question. If you want to go ahead.
Zach, I have a question. I guess big rural county like us, I don't think how many people have answered the census questionnaire. My curiosity is, since it shortened the time frame to have this in, is the people who go around and knock on doors going to come around downtown?
Thank you, Jerry. I think I heard most of that, but if I missed your question, it's because you were a little garbled. But enumerators is the verbiage that the Census Bureau uses. Basically, door knockers are being sent out starting the 11th of August. So just in a few days here, next week, they are going to start knocking doors. And then the other part of your question is, I think, how do we know who has and has not responded? And unfortunately, that information the Census Bureau holds pretty close for privacy reasons. So we can't tell if Jerry's house has responded or not specifically. We can just see, they just give us general response rate percentages for households.
Okay, thanks.
Folks, if you have more questions throughout this or think of more things, put them in the chat box or get them to us afterwards, and we'll make sure Zach gets them, and we will respond to anything to do with the census. Zach, thanks for your time today, and you're welcome to continue and stay with us. And actually, you're welcome to join us for each one of these as they move forward, or you can hang up at your discretion.
Sorry, you guys, I didn't have a pen in hand. Zach, would you give me that email address again?
Yeah, you bet. It's Zachary, ZACHARY .brown@hotmail.com. And I also typed it into the chat box, and Jason hears from me too much, so he knows how to get a hold of me well.
Yeah. All right, thanks.
Members, the next introduction I'd like to make is I saw Miss Kelly Lynch, the Deputy Director and General Counsel of the League of Cities and Towns. She is your partner in crime with us in advocating for full distribution of CARES Act funding from the governor's budget office. So Kelly, if you have a couple opening remarks to make to the membership, feel free to go up and do it now.
Thanks, Eric. Hi, all. I am Kelly Lynch. I'm the Deputy Director and Legal Counsel for the Montana League of Cities and Towns. You guys know Tim Burton. He's the director. His son is getting married on Saturday, so he's busy on a list, honey-do list, probably longer than my arm. So just wanted to briefly thank you for the work that we've been doing together. We have really worked in the last couple of years to strengthen our relationship, and it's been a great opportunity. When we work together, we've really been pretty formidable team. And our executive committees have met and a couple of issues. I look forward to doing more of that, and look forward to just sitting in on this and kind of seeing how the town hall thing goes. Dan has invited us to do the same with our folks. So I'm excited to see how this works. Thanks.
Thanks, Kelly. And I think we've received some emails from city folks that have asked to participate. I think there are probably some city folks on this call today. We're not restricting this to anybody. If you're interested and you want to participate, we're letting anybody do that. Chantel, I saw you pop up too. I think it's time for you to give an update on the governor's recent directive and what that means for elections coming.
I'm trying to unmute over here. Okay, hi everybody. So a while back, about 2 weeks ago, we and the Montana Association of Clerk and Recorders and Election Administrators asked the governor if he were to announce a directive regarding the election, that he do so by August 10th to allow plenty of time for preparation and public communication. If this is a big election, so if it's going to be mail ballot, we want to get the word out and kind of dispel anything that's false, any false information that gets out there. So the directive that came yesterday morning, 4 days early, it allows counties the option to expand mail ballot. So regardless of opting in, there must still be made available the option to vote in person. It's going to look a lot different. Obviously, it's just like the primary. You have to open up the election office and allow people to come in and vote. It's important that the public know that, because there's a lot of misinformation surrounding this issue right now. Early voting is to be made available just like in the primary. The directive is very, very similar to the primary, but there are some small differences. So please go and read it. We have it on our website. If you go to the COVID page, which is linked on the home page of our website, it's on our main menu. Go there, and in the left menu, there is a list of all the directives, and you can read the mail directive there. One more thing I want to mention about the directive and what this means for counties and communication issues. So for more than 10 years, all of us in the government world, in Montana at least, have referred to mail ballot as all mail ballot. That's just how it's always been. And I think that it's important that right now we kind of try and tweak that verbiage a bit, because the public can get confused and kind of panic a little. They need to know that their in-person voting will still be made available. It'll just look different. And that they can still, if they're not sent a mail ballot for some reason, they can still get their ballot. Maybe it's referred to as the expanded mail ballot option that includes in-person voting. That's a mouthful, but we need to figure something out. Just maybe we don't say all mail ballot or mail only, and we kind of change that messaging a bit. If there's any questions, I'm here to answer them.
On the CARES front, for the potential mail ballot / in-person optional, at this point, it looks like we are going to that is going to be CARES Act reimbursable for the postage.
Yes, the directive does state that the postage will be paid again. We know earlier this time, so it'll be easier for counties to get the postage added. And you can either apply for reimbursement through DOA, similar to last time, or through the CARES Act. And there's going to be further guidance regarding the reimbursement process coming soon. So stay tuned.
Questions?
Thank you for the update, Chantel. We'll give just a second here. If anybody has any questions directly related to this now, we can take a few minutes and address those while she's here with us on screen. So I'll look for anything any hands raised or anything in the chat.
All right. Well, Chantel, I know it will be on the entire time. So if you think of something, drop it in the chat. We'll come back to it. In the meantime, let's get started on our progress and discussions with CARES Act. A couple quick updates. As of yesterday's spreadsheet, $11.5 million have been distributed to 24 counties, 17.3 million to 24 cities and towns for a total of just under $29 million. The statewide website indicates that to date on all CARES Act funding, we're just under $106 million. So that sort of gives you an idea of where we're at on the total of the 1.25 billion and where local governments are as far as disbursements. The D of A is currently working through a good number of additional requests that just came in this last batch. So that number should continue to grow. Schedule. So we have a new schedule from D of A on next submittal deadlines. We did get one additional from what their option one was yesterday. So if you have pens and pencils, especially those of you in the finance end of things, here are the new deadline dates. So we will go through August 31st as the next cycle. The deadline for that will be September 25th. For submittal, with an anticipated payout end of October, somewhere between the 9/25 and the end of October. So that's our next opportunity to submit. I will tell you that for those of you that are on in counties that have not submitted yet, I will be doing some direct outreach. I want to see that number from 24 grow and get as close to 56 counties having at least made one request in this next submittal as possible. The fourth cycle of 5 total will go through 10/31. Anticipate an 11/20 deadline for that, November 20th deadline. So I think that's right before Thanksgiving. And the goal for payouts on those will be the end of the year. Our final opportunity will be through 12/30, due 1/31. To be paid out end of February, and that will be our last shot to get CARES dollars under current guidance. So those are important dates. I will scan this in, and Chantel maybe could send it out with the recording of this when it goes out to all of you. On the receipt of your funds, we've been giving you guidance to date that when you receipt those funds, to receipt them into a 2990 fund, which is 2991 to 2999, which are your recovery funds. It's for federal dollars, and then to move those to your general fund. Some of the auditors statewide have pushed back on that and disagree with that guidance. So our compromise at this point is for you, when you get your dollars in, receipt them into that 2990 fund and leave them sit until we can get some better clarification. Our guidance now is that you just leave those dollars in that account. Don't put them back. Don't put them into your public safety account. Don't put them in your general fund. Just leave them there and follow up. With the exception of if you need the dollars, if you have an urgent need to utilize those funds, then reach out to us and we will work those on an individual county by county basis on what to do and how to get those funds dispersed where you need them. I'm going to pause for questions on that because that was sort of a big change in the dynamic and where we're going with those dollars.
Jason, we have a question about voting, or about the mail-in ballots, but let's hold off on that for a second.
Okay.
See if anything comes in about what you just said.
Okay, so on that, we expect more guidance. Hopefully we'll be able to get on the same page with the auditors when we get that guidance and make sure that we give you the right information for what to do with those dollars. But for now, sit on them. Bulk processing or bulk purchasing. So we've had some counties in fiscally responsibly are buying things in bulk and then distributing them out to other counties. The way the D of A wants us to handle those is if you're the purchasing county, so if you buy a whole bunch of masks and you intend to share those masks or sell those masks to another county, their preference is that the purchasing county pay the bill and submit the request for reimbursement for the entire amount, and then give the masks or the thermometers or whatever that PPE might be to the counties that they'd basically entered into an agreement to purchase for, rather than them subtracting off the payments that they would get from other counties or double charging other counties. So the scenario that was given is if County X buys it and then gives half of it to County Y, and County Y pays County X turns in the invoice for the full amount, and County Y puts it in for half. And they're worried about how they would track that and whether or not they would end up double paying. And so the answer is, if you're going to buy in bulk and share with other counties, buy it, get reimbursed for it, gift it to your neighboring local governments, and that should take care of it. So the purchasing county will take a level of risk. If it's something that you're not absolutely sure will be reimbursable, please get it pre-approved so you're not held, you're not end up paying for stuff you gave away to other counties. The other discussion topic yesterday that we went into quite a lot was substantially dedicated. We've been in an ongoing debate with the state about the timeframes they're using for determining the 2/3 number that they gave us to determine substantially dedicated. Our argument is that it should be based on pay period. They've been using their deadlines for submittal as the guideline. We had not come to an agreement on that, and the state got word that Treasury is going to issue additional guidance on what and how to determine substantially dedicated. So they've asked us to hold off on that again, and it really is moot until we get to the next deadline for submittal anyway. So expect additional guidance there. We're going to push on the federal side for the category or for the guidelines to indicate that it would go on pay period. We think that makes a ton more sense, but they may give guidance across the board on how we use that category or how we determine that category in the eligibility. So hold tight on that. That is the update where we're at with the state on CARES. And with that, I would open the floor for questions and go back to the mail-in ballot question that we had earlier.
Okay, we have one that just directly related to that CARES Act, so we'll jump on that one first. I have entered the CARES Act money into a revenue in the general fund. Do I need to move it?
Leave it there.
Okay. All right, and jump back to that postage or the mail-in ballot one, and then we'll go over to the mics. So the question was, will the reimbursement for postage be only on the affidavit envelopes or on the original ballot envelopes also? And Chantel responded, it should be just like last time. I believe that included the affidavit envelopes. Chantel, is there anything else?
Nope. That's it.
Okay. All right, let's jump up to a mic question, then we'll come back into the chat. So this looks like Steve Gleason, your mic is open.
Hi, this is Danette Gleason, the Finance and Budget Director at Butte Silver Bow. I have a question in the joint purchasing that has already been made and submitted for what we did is we did some joint purchasing with Gallatin County for some PPE. And so we paid Gallatin County back for that PPE and have submitted our request for reimbursement under our last reimbursement request. I hope that we get reimbursed for those and that your new process going forward is just moving forward.
So yes, if you've made an outlay, we'll get those figured out. But going forward, they just want for simplicity to not have to pay for the same purchase through multiple local governments. So if you don't get reimbursed, let me know and we'll sort through those invoices and D of A will pay the totals that are due to each county.
Okay. And one more question in regards to I think somebody just asked a question about how they had set up or accrued some revenue in the general fund as it related to their year-end closing would be my guess. And we've done a similar thing for anticipating some receivables, and we're setting and fixing our levies this week. So I would hope that we wouldn't have to go back and do any adjustments to our financials based on this transaction.
Did you, when you're doing that reconciliation for the end of the budget year, did you consider the resources from CARES as one-time unanticipated federal revenue?
We are only doing it for a small amount to offset some expenditures so that we're not having a tax increase.
You're fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, and so that's the gist of the conversation. We didn't want adjustments to mill levy authorities or not milling what you were authorized to mill based on what you could consider to be anticipated payback. So you did it exactly right. Unanticipated federal revenue, don't adjust your millage. That's the right way.
There's no way for any of you to know for sure that the state will continue to distribute you dollars.
Yeah.
So you do not want to anticipate those as accounts receivable or as accrued counts receivable. Treat them as sort of one-time only unanticipated revenues in each cycle that you ask for reimbursement.
Yeah. We just handled it with a very small amount just so we're not impacting the taxpayers by some costs that we had.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay, let's jump back down to the chat. How are we doing on getting all benefits reimbursable?
It comes up at every meeting. We're not going to get a solid answer on that until the governor's office feels like the option for revenue replacement and or additional legislation that gives them revenue replacement is known. So I would anticipate we're in a holding pattern on benefits at least through probably this next cycle. I don't want to get anybody hopeful that we'll know by then. So we're going to continue that fight. We obviously think it's eligible. We obviously think those dollars should be coming to you. We just have been unsuccessful so far in getting them to say, yeah, we'll do it.
Okay. Is there an ability to pay stipends to health director and emergency manager who are salary and get reimbursed? Would it be through CARES or FEMA? Are there any MCA code restrictions? If any other counties have done it, please contact estrickland@parkcounty.org. Jason, do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. So I'm not going to get into whether or not singling out a single employee or a single department of employees within a county for a stipend or for if they're an exempt employee to give them overtime when you don't give your other exempt employees over. I'm not going to get into the HR side of this, but just purely from a CARES Act standpoint, from the day you change the policy to do the stipend and put the policy in place, going forward, we think it could be reimbursable through CARES. But please work with your HR folks, because making decisions on personnel on a one-off basis that are different than other personnel has ramifications.
Jason, any word on longevity being paid?
working on it, Dale. I, for the life of me, can't see any reason why it would not be. It's part of the wage. Most counties put it in the wage versus break it out. I know that your payroll, because I've seen it, breaks that out individually. I anticipate we'll get that fixed before the next submittal. They've already paid you, so I don't know that we'll get it fixed and added, but hopefully for the next time around.
I'm going to pause real quick so we can give people a chance to continue asking or typing question if they want, and just check in. Kelly, is there anything that you would like to add at this point?
No, we've been sitting at the table with Jason and Eric the whole way through, and same issues coming from our folks. And I don't think there's anything in which we're on disagreement about.
Here's another one for you, Jason. Oh wait, maybe not. Because Jason was cutting out on my computer, I missed what he said about using CARES Act money for using anticipated revenue for this budget year. Do you want to touch on that again real quick?
So yeah, so for this coming year, there's no way for any local government today to know what the state's going to reimburse them for going forward out of the CARES Act. The state could say, we're done giving counties any more money, and it's over. So any dollars that you're going to get are at this point unanticipated. So don't accrue them. Don't put them in an accounts receivable, etc. We're going to make one-off requests of the state on September 30th. And so on, that you will get money back for. So just don't accrue those, which will then impact your levy and your budget. So they're unanticipated revenues, and you're going to have 3 more opportunities to ask for those. I want to go back really quick on the stipends. So stipend and bonus are very closely aligned. Bonuses are not allowed. So we want to be super careful with that, and be very careful with how you handle trying to get your folks additional dollars in a manner that previously you hadn't paid them. So changing the way you pay your employees makes me very nervous, and it will make your HR folks nervous. So please, if you're going to do that, either go through your HR or reach out to Mackenzie, and maybe she can help you, and then I can help her with what that impact might be from a CARES Act standpoint.
All right, that catches us up on questions in the chat. If there's any others that want to ask questions via mic, just go ahead and raise your hand and we will get you in the queue here. And any questions for Jason or Chantel, or I think Zach Brown's still with us? No, he left. Okay. Or Dan or Eric, any of the above. I have another one. Andrew, your line is open.
Yeah, Andrew Cherney, CFO, Missoula County. As the Senate considers the HEALS Act coming up for a vote probably next week, they will extend the deadline for the expenditure of the CARES Act 90 days beyond the federal fiscal year, which puts it into next December. Will that change the submission dates that we currently have?
So, with all of this guidance, and with Treasury changing their guidance, and with Congress bringing forward new possible legislation that would not only bring new dollars to the table, but possibly change legislation that we're working under now, absolutely. If they extend how long we have to spend those dollars, we're going to extend the number of submissions and when they would be.
The current submission dates would stay in place, though?
I would argue to keep them in place, and simply because I want us to have as many bites at the apple early as we possibly can, so that those dollars don't start leaking out elsewhere.
Yeah, I guess our fear is that by dragging it out and providing for revenue replacement, the state will be gobbling up a lot of those funds.
We had the same fear.
Okay, let's jump back to the talks. In anticipation of an increase of employees utilizing the Family First Act, can you give some clarification on whether or not these payroll expenditures would qualify for CARES Act reimbursement?
So if you have an employee that you have that's staying home or that you have sent home because their contract traced, etc., those wages are not reimbursable through CARES. The only way you will get reimbursed for expenses related to a situation like that is if you have to hire a temp or a replacement employee for a short time and bring them in. And so you're paying sick wages or you're paying administrative leave for the person that's not working, and you have to pay for the person that's actually performing the work in a short-term basis. That short-term work would be reimbursable, the other would not.
Not totally CARES related, but do you have any guidance on digital signatures?
Is Mackenzie on? My understanding is that digital signatures are fine, but let me clarify that with Mackenzie. We'll re-answer that next time. Can you give me an example of where you're using it?
We have a mic on that one. Time cards and claims.
So I'm not sure I understand the question. Claims. On the question before that from Debbie, we're in negotiations on that and hoping for additional guidance on whether or not the commissioners can use it to their discretion, which is why we're saying leave that in the 2990 fund for now. Our interpretation is yes, it would be able to go to the general fund and use at the commissioner's discretion. The auditors differ with our opinion, so we're in a bit of a holding pattern.
And just for reference, so we can get this in for those who don't have access to the text, the question was, will we be expected to reimburse presumably reimbursable costs to the fund they were originally paid from, or will money be able to be used at commissioner's discretion? Just for the record.
Are you all there? I think I've cut out.
You're back. We lost you for just a second.
Okay, I think I answered a couple questions and nobody could hear me answering them. So the answer right now to that question is the reason why we gave the guidance on the leaving the money in the 2990 funds. The auditors are different opinion than us. We think yes, you can put it in the general fund and use it at your discretion as the budgeting authority for your county. The auditors are saying no, and so we're going to try and get additional guidance on that. So please, for now, unless you need those dollars, which we would ask you to call us on an individual basis, leave them in the 2990 fund and let them sit for a bit while we figure that out. And I don't understand the time cards claims question.
For digital signatures, can commissioners sign time cards, claims, and other documents? Can department heads use digital signatures as well?
If you have a policy, the short answer is I would say yes, but I would feel better if you had a policy as a commission that indicated that that was an acceptable way for you to sign. And if Mackenzie was on here, I would love for her to jump in on that.
All right, I think that gets us caught up again. So if anybody has any last minute questions you'd like to throw out there, now would be the time to do so.
Mackenzie texted me. She can't get it to unmute. She said electronic signatures are fine. So.
All right, I have another question. George, you are unmuted.
Thank you. So, you know, in our county, we are per capita probably the highest in the state in terms of COVID confirmed positives. We do have COVID in our jail. So kind of looking for some guidance on two things. One would be the jail itself. We're looking at some modulars because our jail is, you know, built in 1978. It is has several large rooms where you have 8 and 12 people. Very difficult to isolate, very difficult to quarantine. We can't. So we're looking at some modulars. We also have another community that has a defunct jail. You know, and I know Montana has its guidance. When you look at the state or the federal guidance for state, local, and tribal governments, it does have a line item in there for separating in jails and state prisons. So I guess that's what we're looking for is, you know, so we already have some calls into DOA about seeing if these would be reimbursable. And then probably the second question, just quarantine isolation of community members themselves, maybe looking at some tiny houses, some sheds, you know, those sheds on skids, those sort of things. So if you guys have any examples, maybe across the state of we've done the cleaning, but any other examples of COVID in your jails or how you're coping with separating your population.
Commissioner, your scenario with the modulars came up yesterday, and I wasn't tracking where they were going with it because they called them trailers, and I was thinking of a trailer you pull behind your vehicle. So it was hard for me to catch on to where they were going with you, but it was mentioned. If there's something that we can do to help you plead your case, please call me. I'm happy to push buttons where I have to. I know you've got a situation there that's more elevated than a lot of counties are right now. So give me a call and let's talk about how we can get you some help in both of those instances. The isolation of your individual community members is probably going to be a little bit more difficult, but happy to have that conversation with you.
Thank you.
And to my knowledge, there's no other counties that are contemplating something like that. I have not heard that yet.
I might ask a question, George. This is Jim Hart. Do you have possible motel space? Some motels are offering a room or two based on a similar scenario as to what you're facing. Have you looked into that?
So we do have a space for our jailers, where our jailers or our correction officers are able to go to a room, shower off, put their clothes in a bag. At one point, we developed working quarantine amongst our employees in county government. Two particular departments, of course, are corrections. So the tribe right now, the Crow Nation, is utilizing, they're purchased a lot of motel rooms here in town of Hardin. We've not done that yet. We're kind of looking more for, as we get more cases, we are in day 6 of August and we already have 85 confirmed new cases. Right now, we've been really lucky. The tribe has been able to manage most of with the dollars it received from the CARES Act to provide rooms for people off reservation. Our positive confirmed cases, they've been able to quarantine at home. But we're looking for that next step and that surge where we're gonna have people like home. So we would have to help them quarantine someplace other than their home. Actually, I do got more questions. You know, so one, we do have, we are going to do hazard pay for our jailers, our correction officers, because they are working in a COVID infected work site. And I think we've put in a request to DOA, so probably after we get off the call to talk to you, Jason, more about it.
So,
and again, we also have, we have one of our, you know, I have 2 bars outside of town of Hardin, and one of the bars is really struggling to keep up with the PPE. They were already denied the small business stabilization grant. You know, so she's asked us if there's something we could do to help them. We have been providing sanitizer, PPE, disinfectant, but I think she also probably hurting her financially because she has purchased a lot of this product herself.
yeah, let's talk about both of those items. To date, the county or the state has not been allowing hazard pay. I do know that. But we can, if you're putting pressure on them, maybe that will help us.
Okay. So you guys are going to connect offline. That sounds great. Is there anything else that anybody would like to ask? We have about 10 minutes left time, so we're getting close to the end. If we don't have any additional questions, we'd be happy to give those 10 minutes back to you on a Friday. Any other thoughts, Jason? Oh, here's another one. I've joined by cell phone. Oh, I'm not seeing that. Let me see. Will Jason please repeat the information about purchasing on behalf of other counties?
Okay, so if you're gonna group with other local governments to make a bulk purchase, if you're the local government making the order, the way the DOA wants you to do it is one local government makes the order, one local government makes the payment, one local government asks for reimbursement. Then you would gift it to the other local governments, whatever their part of it was. What they don't want is for County X to order a bulk and give a partial request for reimbursement or a reimbursement request for the whole amount, sell some to the neighboring local government who then submits a separate request for reimbursement, and so on down the line. So if you're the county that's leading the order and asking or ordering from the vendor, you will be the county that pays the bill and asks for the reimbursement. And in turn, what you would do is then just give it to your neighbors.
All right, last call for any questions, either on the mic or in the chat.
Ashley, this is Keith Wilson with Gallatin County. Can you hear me?
I can, go ahead.
So that guidance going forward, but did D of A mean to bring that guidance back as well? there was an order Gallatin County placed in March, for instance, and distributed.
So anything that we've been, where the guidance has come after submission, as far as, reimbursement that they said no to, but now they're going to say yes to, et cetera, has been going forward. So I'm going to hold D of A to that same set of rules for this. So if you have trouble getting reimbursed, let me know, and we'll work through that with D of A.
Will do. However, I think this is probably more appropriate through DES and FEMA eventually for our purposes for this PPE.
D of A is the one that brought it up and asked for the guidance to be done this way. So if the funds are reimbursable through DES, then yes, work directly with them. If it's a combination, let's get D of A on board with it too.
Okay, so I've got a bunch of counties that have already paid Gallatin County. It's about $100,000 order. So before I start reimbursing those counties, I'll make sure it's clear with DES.
Yeah, and I, if I'm being frank, it's your purchase that's raised the flag. So let's work through the financial transactions that have occurred or that are pending with D of A and make sure that they understand and get everybody the right amount of money back. So you're not stuck or another county's not stuck.
Got it.
It's a tracking problem for them.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. I'm seeing no more chat questions. We'll do one more sweep, see if there's any more hands raised. Oh, Andrew, do you have another question or is that just a holdover?
That's just a holdover.
Oh, okay. All right, it looks like that's all of them. So final thoughts, Jason, Kelly, Dan, Eric?
So obviously the Congress is in discussions right now. Depending on if or when something comes out of there, all of this could change. So stay tuned. I think 2 weeks out is probably appropriate. We should know by then if they've taken action and what that action looks like and what the impacts are on us. So if everybody's interested in continuing these, we would schedule one for 2 weeks from today. And then as always, as you're thinking through this, if there's something you're not sure about whether it would be reimbursed, please ask before you purchase and we'll try and get pre-approval. For those of you that have submissions in that have not received your money, if when they respond to you, you don't like something, please call me. There has been some of that. We'll follow up and try and get it funded for next time and or get you an answer as to why it was rejected.
I just had a question come in about this recording. Will it be available later so we can forward it on? Yes, we will make sure to get it out. MACo will have a link to disperse through their means, and then the LGC will also post it on our website. So if you have trouble finding it by the end of the day, just send me an email or give me a call and we'll make sure you get it.
And I will try and get the deadline dates attached to that.
And Jason, can you tell us just one more time? It's August 31st is the period. September 15th is the next deadline.
September 25th.
September 25th is the next deadline, and that payout will be expected by the end of October for that reimbursement period.
Correct.
All right. Anything else for the good of the order?
Special thank you to both Zach and Kelly for joining us. And you all have a great weekend.
Thanks all.